Hey guys, welcome back to the We See You podcast. We're so glad that you're joining us. I want to introduce Miss Christine Notartomaso onto our show today. Christine, I don't even know where to start with you. I don't even know how to introduce you because I have so many things that I want to say about you. But we'll start with the basics. Christine and I have been friends for probably, 13, 14 years.
Yes. Yep. Isla's 12 and you came when she was born.
Yes.
So...
Yep. Okay. So 12, 13 years because she was in your tummy when I met you. She is the owner of the Lab Hair Studio here in Claremont, also co-owner of the newly opened Salton Sea Wellness Spa. I'll let her talk about that if she wants to. And she's also mentor, boss babe. She has no idea how much she inspires so many people, and I'm just super excited. She's too humble to tell you that, so I have to tell you that. I'm super excited to have her on the show today. So how you doing?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much, Caitlin.
You want to have like your 10-second plug for any of the things?
For any of the things for like the businesses?
Yeah.
For the salon? Okay.
Yep.
So, just salon owner, the Lab Hair Studio. We've been open for March will be our 9-year anniversary, and we're just rocking and rolling. We absolutely love it. Really just being able to be caretakers for people in our community. And then we just opened Salton Sea Wellness Spa, which I think is an incredible addition. I think it's something that we really need, giving people that essence of being able to just slow down and not have to rush and not be, as we talk about all the time, not being human doings. You know what I mean? Just taking time for ourselves. And so I'm really excited for, just to kind of share that piece of us with our community, which I was born and raised in Claremont. So my heart is here.
Yes.
It's here. I'm very passionate about our community, about, Lake County, but Claremont in particular.
Awesome. So tell us a couple of the services that we can get done here.
Okay.
I'm going to turn this around. I don't know if y'all can see that or not.
I'll save my very favorite for last, but
okay.
We do offer full massage therapy. We have a couples room, so if you wanted to come in and with your loved one and get a couples massage, that is available. We have aesthetics, body treatments. We also have some specialty massages. So we have ashiatsu, which is massage with the feet, my favorite type of massage. And then we also have a salt room, which, especially coming through this COVID pandemic, is very beneficial for COVID recovery. Whether you just had it, whether you had it 3 months ago, we are definitely seeing, and from personal experience, long-term effects of that.
For sure.
So the salt room is huge. You only have to be 4 months old to come. So even if you had little ones that had an upper respiratory infection, eczema, anxiety, so many different benefits of that. So you can come sit, have a little 20-minute sesh, feel fantastic. I actually just had COVID a couple weeks ago, and I've had a few sessions, and my congestion is pretty much cleared up. Like, I'm not coughing. I don't have that residual, which is phenomenal. And then my absolute favorite, we have 2 float tanks. So we have, one of them is more like a pool, where if you need an open space, you're maybe a little bit claustrophobic. It's also big enough for 2 people. So you could come in and have that couples massage and then do that couples float. And then we also have my favorite, her name is Pearl, and it's a float pod. So you get an extra level of sensory deprivation with that. It's silence, darkness. If you choose, you can keep the lights on or keep the music kind of just low, like a vibe, But I love to have that. I feel like we are overstimulated as a society constantly with the phones, with the business. Myself being a business owner, there are times where I literally have to just set boundaries with myself and go, you're done working, walk away from the phone, stop responding to people. These are not your business hours. Sit down, So
Absolutely.
I love and adore that so much. So a lot of people are like, I've never heard of this before. It is the couples pool. It basically looks like a giant bathtub, like the bathtub of your dreams. You can lay in it and just starfish out. It's phenomenal. And then the pod, we named her Pearl because it literally looks like a pearl. And so you get inside. It's about 11 or 12 inches of water with anywhere between 900 to 1,100 pounds of salt. And so it creates kind of like this, like you're floating in the Dead Sea, this buoyancy where you don't have to try to float. You just do. And the water is 94.3 degrees. So eventually, once you're in there and your body regulates, you can't even feel that submersion line anymore. It almost completely disappears, so it feels like you're floating in space. Or you just are completely zero gravity. You know, at any point when we're resting, even now, you know, you're putting pressure on lower back, sciatic nerve. There's always pressure somewhere. So when you're floating, you're not. It's 100%. It's just that zero gravity comfort. You can truly relax. A lot of times, I float once a week. This is a promise that I made myself, you know, since we got the float tanks up and running. Christine, you are absolutely 100% going to take an hour for yourself every week to just check out, float, check in with yourself. And then just kind of just be, even if it's nothing. Sometimes I'll find myself falling asleep and then I'll wake up and I'm like, you have no idea how long you've been in there. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you're like, wait a minute, you know, you won't go past an hour because there's a timer, but you're like, was I asleep for 5 minutes, 15 minutes? You have no idea.
Right.
So we're really excited to share all of that. We have some great retail that goes along with the aesthetics, Feedamere products, superior. Company has been around for forever, so I just want to invite everyone to come in and give it a try.
And we've just lost all of our listeners because they all just went and booked appointments.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yes.
Okay, but seriously, I need to book mine. We were talking last night. I got my hair done by Miss Christine. We were talking last night. I play adult league soccer, and the recovery, man, I'm old. And it's rough. And we've got some of these players out here who are convinced that we're playing for FIFA World Cup. Fun fact, we're not. So I am excited to try that out and do that for part of my recovery each week.
Huge, especially being the city of athletes. I think, you know, we have a lot of athletes that need a little bit extra with that muscle recovery so that they have, you know, optimal performance.
Yes, for sure. All right, so let's get into it. Last week, Brandon and I talked about home and what it means to be home. And he had a relatively quick transition from the Midwest to calling this home. Took me a lot longer. Like even now I'll catch myself, I'm going home to visit my parents. Like, wait a second, no, I'm an adult. This is my home now. But I think especially when we're focusing on what home is and what it means to be at home with yourself, in order to establish that, there also has to be periods of your life where you have to leave what you had. And I think that leaving is probably one of the hardest things that we have to do, because leaving, you have to grieve who you were before, and you have to accept who you're going to be, even if you don't know who that is yet. So the reason why I asked you on the podcast today was to chat with me. I know a good portion of your story, and I think one of the things that always stands out to me is your resilience. And so many people would not have the courage to do the things that you've done, either on the business side, in the relationship side, going to Africa on a mission trip and leaving part of your heart there with your village. So I want to hear from you on, where do you find that courage? Whoa, I'm breaking things.
Oops.
And what does leaving mean for you?
Oh my gosh. Leaving can be incredibly terrifying. But
yes.
the good news is, if you have that level of self-awareness and you realize that kind of that like nervous and excited is same coin, different side. And you can accept that this is something that I need to do. I need to take this step. And that's really all that it is. I think so it's important for us to set goals for the future.
For sure.
But then sometimes we just keep our eyes out there and we don't zoom into right here. And I feel like this is where life happens, not out here.
Right.
So you set the intention for out there, and then you zoom back in on right now in the one step and then the next step. And for me, I mean, I grew up in a non-denominational Christian church. So I grew up with a very strong faith base. They were incredible people, amazing people, very supportive. Had a little bit of, I'll just, put it straight out there. I had a teen pregnancy. I had my son when I was 18 years old, which, can be a little within the church, especially when you're a member. And so I kind of over the following years from that, went through this little bit of like pull away. And this more what that you would call modern day like spiritual journey. So in everything that I read, in the books, in the coaches that I had, workshops that I took, I was learning so much. But after years, I kind of went like, wait a second, like all of this sounds really familiar to me. And the whole time throughout this, it was kind of when I was spending my time in either like meditation, some people would call it prayer, I'm hearing the same voice my whole life. I'm hearing the same voice. And I think it was really putting a name on that, and that being like, wait a minute, like I do recognize this voice, and that is God for me. I have a very, very strong faith. I believe in God. I believe, Jesus died for my sins 100%. But it took me going through, kind of pulling away, and then going through that whole journey on, like by myself, to then realize this voice that I've been hearing this whole time, all of these teachings that felt so familiar to me and so comfortable, this is where they came from. They actually came from my foundation from growing up within the church. And so I would say that I definitely find my strength in God. My nudges come from God. I set my intention out here, and then I pay attention to the breadcrumbs that are in my life right here and right now.
Right.
And follow those. I mean, that's really all that you can do when you're living here, when you're living in the moment, when you're not focused on the past, when you have set intentions and goals for the future, but then keep it here in the right now, which I'm totally nerding out about being here, by the way. I'm like, oh my gosh. But anyways, when you keep it in the right now and then just continue to take those steps and kind of feel that pull, have that level of self-awareness of like, this is what I want to do. It's scary, but I have faith. And I know that I'll be guarded. I know I'll be protected. I know that if I just keep listening and have faith and follow this path, then it'll all be okay. And that's what I tell myself when I kind of start getting a little bit nervous about something. I'm like, okay, Christine, what is the absolute worst thing that could happen? Someone could die. Nobody's going to die. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not taking these steps, not doing these things. At the end of the day, it's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
Regardless of the outcome, it's going to be okay.
Yep. So I think for me, one of the biggest struggles that I'm still working on is people pleasing with leaving. Like, I am fiercely loyal. I am Irish. I'm from New York. Like, when I've decided that you are my people, like, ride or die. And for me, anytime I've been in a situation where I know I have to leave, I know it's not good for me, the biggest struggle comes from not wanting to disappoint others or not wanting to let others down. I think the biggest example I have of that is when I decided to leave the classroom. I mean, the guilt and the shame were so real. You walked through that with me. I don't know how many hair appointments we had, and I didn't go a lot back then because I was a teacher and I was real poor. But it was this brick wall of being so afraid of letting other people down that I was betraying myself and betraying my heart. And I think anytime you leave or are thinking about leaving, you have to take the time, take the space to remove yourself. And like you said, sit in that meditation, sit in that prayer, sit in whatever belief that you have and say, who am I doing this for? And what is my why? And when you can establish your why, every decision becomes so much easier. And you're going to lose people along the way. But to me, that is just clarity. That's understanding who's really in your corner, who's rooting for you. And you can let some of the other garbage go. Because the people who aren't rooting for you, thank them for the time that they had in your life and let them leave.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
So much easier said than done. You know, especially because we're humans. We're not islands. Mm-hmm. We are meant to live in villages. We're meant to have support. I actually just heard someone on TikTok, actually, my guilty pleasure, someone saying the other day that animals, people, like, we are born with what is most important for us to know from the very beginning. So for animals, that could be running so they can get away from predators. That may be, being able to fly like a baby bird. You know what I mean? What is the first thing that we know to do when we're babies, when we're born? And that is to cry and ask for help. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are already, when you are born, reaching out to others. So why does that other ever fall by the wayside? And then where that level of self-awareness, like you were talking about, like sitting with yourself is, and knowing your why and your purpose. Sometimes we create these kind of false narratives about how people are going to react around us. And we don't really know 100% until we sit down and have the conversation, or until we sit down and are vulnerable with them and tell them or have a conversation with them about what we are doing or what is on our heart or what we feel like we need to do. And kind of what you said too, not everyone is meant to be with you forever.
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely. So you said false narratives.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite topics.
We about to get a little Brene in the house?
Oh, we might.
Oh, we might.
So creating stories.
Yes.
I always love to say, people around here will tell you, I want to be the narrator of my own life. I want to be the narrator of my own story. With that, you also have to realize that it doesn't matter what story you are telling, other people, especially the ones who are rooting against you, are going to create a story. And so I distinctly remember the time. So Christine and I have mutual friends. That's how we met. And for a long time, it was Christine, Anya's friend. And I'm sure it was probably the other way around for me as well. And you posted something that I said, oh, she needs to be in my tribe. Okay, I see you now, girl. And
let's go deeper.
Yes, exactly. Let's stop talking about hair for 10 seconds, okay? And you made this post, and it was all of the stories that either you felt other people wrote about you, or I don't really know the story behind the post, but it was all of these words, and then it was you owning, I'm more than this. This is not my story, and I get to be the author of the next chapter. So can you talk to us a little bit about that? Do you know what post I'm talking about?
I know exactly what post you were talking about. It was from, we were in the old location for the lab, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we were in the old location, yes, and I made this post. I took this photo. It was after I had my youngest. So I think it was kind of a mixture of, because I have 3 children, 3 different dads, which I feel like it's 2022. A lot of people just, you know what I mean? Just kind of roll with it, have a similar story, not my business, you know what I mean? Whatever it may be. But then you do have the handful of, people I had experienced personally with other people that had made comments to me, or I had heard through the grapevine, which is a dangerous way to get your information, that, there were things that were being said about me, and there were certain stories that were being perceived about me. And, just accepting all of that and understanding that anyone who does have that belief or projects that onto me, number one, it has way more to do with them than it does to me. And also, that is not my story. And I had at that point had sat with self-awareness and in silence enough, and had really made it an attempt, which I still do every day, to be my own best friend, and to know that regardless of what anyone was saying about me, the people that truly matter, the people that I really love, the people that I want to reach out to for advice, for whatever it may be, would never put that label on me.
Right.
Would never give me that kind of weight, that cross to carry, if you will, that scarlet letter or whatever it may be. So yeah, that's kind of what it was, just stepping out and being like, listen, I know these things have been said about me. I know some people carry these beliefs, and it's not the truth.
Absolutely. And I can tell you that it's not the truth.
Yeah.
Just in case you need a reminder, because I have
always love that.
Been on the journey for a while. I don't know Ethan's dad, but the other 2 I've been around and I've seen it. And I will say that the one thing that I never question ever about you is when you've made a decision, it's thought out, and almost always your kids are at the front of that decision.
Very front of it.
And what do I need to do? Who do I need to be for them to be that example?
Yes.
And I think so often we have people staying, I don't care if it's in a job, in a relationship, in a marriage, in a city, in a town, who are making these decisions thinking it's the best for their kid, when really all your kid needs is for you to be happy. And the more you can be the role model of, I wasn't happy and it wasn't okay, and we're going to do better.
Right.
And doing it unapologetically. Like, not in the sense, not in a selfish way, but in a, I love you so much that we're going to go through this hard together. We're not going to stay in this. We get to choose our hard. And that is the power behind leaving any situation. When I left teaching, I love teaching, y'all. It's a problem. It's not, like, even now when people
you pronounced gift wrong. No, it's a gift.
Oh, thank you.
Well, and I know that one of the hardest parts for you there was your students, your pupils.
My kids.
We'll take a second.
My kids, because they weren't students.
Yeah. We'll take a second to brag about Caitlin now. And the reasons why I love you so much is I watched you time and time again put all of their needs before yours. Be there for them regardless. Didn't matter of the hour, didn't matter of the time, it didn't matter if that meant, taking a phone call in the middle of the night or whatever that may be. And you made so many sacrifices without even questioning it at all. You gave 110% every single day to all of your kids. You went above and beyond. You're like, everyone has that teacher in their life that made a difference at some point, that either believed in you, even if it was just like a little comment, you're like, wow. And I feel like that's really what people need is just someone to believe in them, and you were that person. So I know for them, walking away from that, I'm sure in your body felt slightly like a betrayal.
Oh, 100. Well, and not just in my body, like, people were telling me that.
Yeah.
People were audibly to my face telling me that I was betraying God even. And he gave you this gift. This is your calling. This is your purpose. Why would you ever turn your back on it? And I sat in that for a long time, and I realized I don't have to be in a classroom to use that gift. I can teach every single day. I can meet a person, connect with them, and give them the feeling of, I see you. I got you. Let me help you. And one of my favorite phrases is that luggage, suitcases, baggage has handles for a reason, and they get real heavy. Let somebody else take the bag for a while.
Yeah.
And how appropriate that I switched to literally helping people move. But genuinely, I think when you can accept the fact that a gift isn't defined by a location or by a relationship or by anything other than what you are bringing to the table, it gives you the courage not to leave, but to go to where you are called.
Yes.
To make your impact bigger.
Yes. And I love that. It's early on a Thursday for Goosebumps, but it's straight up, you're right. When you just said, I don't have to be in a classroom to use this. Very similar situation for me, just, recently is I kind of stepped back and semi-retired from working behind the chair.
Right.
Which was a terrifying choice for me to make. It's where I was comfortable. It's where I knew, after doing hair for almost 20 years, exactly what to do with anyone who sat in my chair. Mm-hmm. And, I kind of just kept hearing God, feeling that gentle nudge going, stop being comfortable. You need to move out from where you're comfortable. You know what I mean? Just like step away from it, let go of it.
Yes.
Because there's something more. You don't have to be behind a chair to use your gifts that I gave you.
It's powerful stuff.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
I don't even know where to go from there. And that's the end.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it might be. I don't know how long we've been talking. We'll keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to me a little bit about deciding to open your own business. That's a huge step. And you brought up comfort a lot. And I think a lot of times, other than being scared, it's also the comfort of staying in, the enemy, if you will.
Yes.
So how old were you? What
Oh my gosh.
made you
You're gonna
decide?
make me math.
Yeah, well.
I was mid-20s. We'll just say that.
Y'all, mid-20s.
Yeah. I'm not mathing on the spot unless it's in like ounces. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I can't math with ounces, but okay. Let's just beep, back up the bus and give credit where credit is due. Mid-20s.
Yes.
Already had your son.
Two.
Already had Isla.
Already had Isla. Yes. Yep.
You were in an established salon. Is that the right terminology?
Yeah. Established salon. For
already
sure.
had your book.
Yes.
Would have been incredibly easy for you to stay.
Yeah. Except for there was a greater calling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
So looking back when I was in cosmetology school, I did a program through the Lake Tech, which is where I went to school. It's called Skills USA. And it's a competition for the trades to kind of show off what they've learned and what they're capable of and what they can do. And you have this kind of like local level, then you have state level, and then you have this national level. So when I completed the kind of like local level and won first place, and then went to state and then placed first at state as well, they interviewed me. And you can still look up the article, like occasionally, like if I'm in a funk or I'm kind of like, not really sure, like I'll just kind of look it up and read it again, because it's literally is like me when I was 18 years old talking to me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a fantastic reminder for me to look back, read my words, and go, girlfriend, like you literally, like you just put it out there in a little, it would be cool to own my own salon. But it wasn't something that like I went out and I was like 100% this is what I'm going to do from the very beginning. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like brought it back here. You know what I mean? That was like way out here. So brought it back here, continued working, following those steps. And I could see very clearly in my path, once I did decide, that I was being prepared the whole way through, picking up those breadcrumbs, moving from the salon because, it just was a bad situation. It was not for my highest good. Moving into a corporate salon where I learned a lot about, being a salon leader, being a leader, a lot of training, a lot of, do's and don'ts and things of that along that line. And then eventually it came to the place where, corporate, they kind of almost made me make a choice. After I had Isla, they're still expecting 60 plus hours a week from me. And I'm like, I have a baby and I'm not doing it. You can't have your position anymore. And then I was like, heard, enough said, know? So went to a privately owned salon and worked there, and I felt really good about it. You know what I mean? I was able to spread my wings more. I had more freedom. I really wanted to learn as much as I possibly could and help build. But there was this kind of feeling of restriction, of not being heard, of just again with the greater, there is something else for me here.
Right.
And I think people come into our lives to teach us things, and I think it's what to do is just as important as what not to do when you're learning from someone. So if you have someone in your life and you're struggling with them and you're just like, oh my gosh, like that feels so bad. Okay, I'm going to commit that to memory. I know that I don't want to make anyone else feel that way. I know that I don't want to talk to anyone else that way because it does not feel good. So just as important taking the lessons of what not to do as it is to take what to do. So in 2013, I flew all the way across the country and was sitting in a convention classroom and the teacher was kind of spewing out these things, and a lot of them were kind of like ideas that I had that I'd put out that were kind of shut down or, you know, stifled or impossible. And my salon owner at the time kind of swiveled her chair around, and she looked at me and she was like, "That's a really great idea. We should do that." And I was like, I'm going to excuse myself for a moment. So I got up, and you know, like the like frustrated tears, you know, the frustrated tears.
Yes.
And those are the ones that are for mom. So I immediately was like, "Mom," you know, like just had to give her a ring. And I was like going through all of these things and blah, 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 and this is what happened. And then all of a sudden it like hit me like a Mack truck. And I was like, "Mom, I'm ready. I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to get out on my own." I feel like I got goosebumps all over again. I'm like, literally, this is the next step for me. And like, I just was hit with confirmation that this is what needs to happen. So I came home, and that was it. I mean, you know, I gathered the troops and off we went. And, you know, I never had the intention of opening a salon so that I owned a business. Mm-hmm. I wanted to open a salon so that I had somewhere where I could work that would also work for me.
Yes.
So, you know, and that's what I really strive to give my girls. And there have been times along the way where I have taken classes where, again, people told me, "That's impossible. You can't do that." And we're doing it.
Yes.
So it's not impossible. You just have to get creative. You have to be willing to, you know, listen, I'm not taking no for an answer. I know that there's a way that we can do this. I know there's a way that we can make this happen.
So Matt, my broker, Wheelie Realty Group, has a very similar outlook and philosophy. And I remember coming here, I was terrified. Like, I had already left teaching. I was already with another brokerage, and here I am leaving again, starting over again in a very short amount of time. And I do not do change well. I'm very good at supporting other people's change, but me personally, I'm like, just beat me back up the bus. And I'm going to totally put him on the spot. When we moved into this office and he was picking out art, he was picking up little things here and there for his agents that when he saw it, he was like, yep. And he ordered me a picture. It ended up being way bigger than he thought. It's pretty gargantuan. So it's not here because it's like, and here's Caitlin's picture. But it's in my house. It's actually in my bathroom because I was like, where do I want to see this every single day as a reminder? And it's this wolf. And yes, I say wolf, weird. But it says, "I'm coming for everything they said I couldn't have." And that meant so much to me that you barely know me. You've seen me, but you don't know me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like an onion. I'm very Shrek-like. Like Layers. I will be kind to most everybody. If I'm not kind to you, there's a reason. And I will be friendly, but to actually be a tribe member, for me to call you my friend, like, you got some work to do and I got some work to do, and it's going to be like a reciprocity situation. And for him to believe in me and to see that and to say everything they told you couldn't do, prove them wrong. And it's just not in like a nasty way, because my brain went to like 15 different people. Like, I want to talk about this. Who's got my heart? Who's going to know how I want to talk about it? Mm-hmm. One of the reasons why I picked you is because you can see change and you can see leaving in a very similar light that I do. It doesn't have to be this nasty, tumultuous, drama-filled, let's create a story, let's trauma bonding, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe in that at all.
No.
I truly believe, and even taught it in my classroom, with every single choice, with every single decision, you get to decide. Are you going to be bitter or are you going to be better?
Yes.
You better be choosing better every single time.
Every single time.
Because if you're choosing bitter, you're not attuned with your why. Mm-hmm. And more than likely, you're not doing it for the right reasons. it's a knee-jerk reaction. It's an angry reaction. It's a vindictive or I'm going to get you back reaction. Instead, let's look at it. I'm coming for it. You told me I can't. Watch me how I can. And then let me turn around and give you my hand and pull you along with me.
Yeah.
Let me show you why we can. Let me do it right. And then let me invite you to join me at the table.
Yes.
And I think that's so massively important and a message that more people need. Like, you can leave and still hold space.
Yes.
You can leave and still love. It doesn't have to be
Ugly.
slam the door and flicking you off and cussing you out and speaking ill of you, because the second you do that, the enemy's already won.
Yes.
So,
and I think a big part of that is knowing self. You know what I mean? And understanding that it's not even about what's right or what's wrong. It's about what's for you and what's for me.
yes.
And, you know, there are so many times where, you know, you can look at someone and be like, listen, I'm not saying that you are wrong at all. It's not wrong. I just know that it's not for me.
Absolutely.
And being able to stand on that. And one thing that a word that kept popping up was reaction, reacting. And that's something that we talked about last night, actually, in your hair appointment, is that's something that I strive for, is to not be reactive, to sit with something and really think about it, and using that empathy, compassion, understanding to try to feel what this other person is feeling. The experiences and the lens that they're seeing their perspective is completely different from mine.
Absolutely.
And that's okay, and that's yours, and this is mine. And just, you know, there have been times where, you know, people have left my company. They've had to leave. And, you know, those are hard conversations to have. But, you know, sometimes they're really necessary, and they're like, you know, I feel like I'm letting you down. You are not letting me down when you are following your calling.
Absolutely.
When you feel called, you feel drawn to something else, you are doing a disservice not only to yourself, but also to me, by not listening to that and following it. Because if there's everyone has a different path. And we, you know, maybe you came here, you learned your lesson, you know, this particular thing that we had to offer you, and now it's time for you to take it and fly with it and rock and roll with it, you know. It definitely, the endings they don't have to be drama filled. Like, you can still clap for that person all the way along. You can still encourage them. You can still, you know what I mean? Listen, if you have any questions about anything, if I can help you in any way, since I've been in the industry for a long time, give me a call.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm down for a conversation, and that's fine. But also just being able to own what is for you and what is not for you. Yeah. And the other thing that I did end up taking a note.
Look at
actually,
that. Look
was
at that.
You were talking about the picture that Matt got you for and you have it in your bathroom. I think the bathroom, because it's like my getting ready space. As a parent, sometimes it's where you hide for like just an extra 3 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I have these poster boards in my bathroom. I also write with paint markers on my mirror constantly. And it's a mixture of the, like, my New Year kind of, I hate to call it a ritual, because I'm looking for a better word, but it's kind of like my practice, if you will, for the new year, to kind of like make these poster boards, and they're super colorful, and they're, you know, I usually pick a word for the year and then roll with it, and all of these different quotes, maybe Bible verses that someone sent to me, things that are like very impactful for me at that very moment, you know, looking at what I want to do this year. And that's exactly where I keep them. Like, they're all next to my mirror. I'm up to 3 of them right now. It's been crazy.
Yes.
but
it's so important, though.
It's important, especially, like, you just have to realize, like, what type of person am I? And I am that, like, visual person. Like, I need, like, a thing, you know what I mean? Again, like with the tattoos, like, they're all have a meaning, and I know that at any point, if I'm kind of feeling this certain way, I can look at it and be like, you know what I mean? Like, almost like a reminder. It keeps you on track, keeps you going. And so I love that. Another parallel for us.
Yes.
Bathroom warriors. We're gonna start a group.
If you need any inspiration for your bathroom art, just hit us up. We'll help you out.
And I think I completely got us off topic on any of that.
No,
but yeah, not being reactive. Yeah, like like sitting with it and really thinking it through, and, you know, coming at it from an angle that is still full of love and respect and empathy and compassion, and just being like, this is just what it is. And I love you.
Yes.
Still have love for you.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. So are you comfortable talking? You brought up love.
Yeah.
You comfortable talking about?
Yeah, sure. Let's rock and roll.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'm transparent. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we talked about last night too, and I think I'm seeing it more and more. COVID did a number on so many marriages. So many marriages.
I coined the phrase the COVID shuffle.
Yeah.
While we were going through it, because it, just looking at so many people, it was almost like, we had this game board, and God was like, no. Like, you go here, you're over here, you're actually right here. Like, so many people made huge changes in their lives.
Yeah. And needed. It was almost like this cleansing.
Like a reset almost.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And one thing that I'm starting to see a pattern is people's inability to go their separate ways amicably.
Yeah.
There has to be drama. And I don't know if that's like the political climate that we're in, I don't know. What it feels like everything's a fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think it's so important to remember, and I said this to you last night, if you love somebody enough at one time to marry them, to share life with them, to have a child with them, I get that hurt happens. Deep hurt happens. Love them enough also to let them go without losing yourself.
Yes.
I completely agree that boundaries are so important, and sometimes you just need to cut people out. But you can cut people out and still hold space and love and realize, like, you know what you did was awful, or what we went through was awful, but I can still love you and respect you enough to not wish ill will towards you.
Yes.
I can love myself enough to not let this define me. And therefore we can go, we can leave, and it still be filled with enough respect and enough love that both people walk away with a sense of forgiveness.
Yeah.
And even if it's not reciprocated back to you, knowing, like, forgiveness is a gift to yourself.
Yes.
It's not a gift to the other person. They're going to keep living their life.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think so often when people leave, everybody wants the gossip. Everybody wants the drama. Everybody
Spill the
wants,
tea.
yes, spill the tea. And I think when you're able to let somebody leave, genuinely wish them well, thank them for whatever lesson they taught you, even if it's a hard one, and move on. What a gift you're giving yourself to not hold that hatred in your heart.
Right. I think everything circles right back around to the self. Everything circles back around to the self. And so I think when you can sit back and another thing that something I try to really bear in mind and cling to is assuming positive intent. So besides psychopaths, there are not many people that wake up in the morning and go, how can I make everyone's life miserable today?
Right.
You know what I mean? People don't wake up and do that. They when you're assuming positive intent, you're looking at people as they are doing the very best that they can in their journey. So that's kind of where it comes into play with meeting people where they're at.
Right.
And understanding that they do have a story and a perspective that is different than yours. They do have things that they are overcoming. I think at that point, you have to take into consideration, what's for you, what's not for you, and then just accepting that they're their main character.
Yeah.
You are your main character. You know what I mean? The narrative in the story is completely different. And so many of the things that others have done it's flipping the switch from they did this to me to they just did this. Because, more often than not, it's not something that they are doing to you. Yeah. It's something that they did or they do that they're either need counseling for, need help with, have a traumatic experience from the past. It's something that they're processing. So I think that's where loving people like Jesus and giving grace and not judgment and not, this is not my place. To
stay curious, not judgmental.
Yeah. Yes. Be curious, not judgmental. Ask more questions.
Yeah.
There is a situation where I had a partner that was unfaithful, and he was honest enough to step up and to tell me this. And if we're being honest, I felt like I had been hit like by a Mack truck. Mm-hmm. It was total, like I felt my body go into shock. So luckily in that moment, I didn't have a reaction, but I did have questions.
Right.
And I did have to sit with that and take into consideration what he was going through by his own actions and what had led up to that. And what was he seeking from that. So being curious, not judgmental, not being like, yeah, you know what I mean? Because it could have been slamming doors. It could have been, you know what I mean? Like, well, I would have keyed his car. I could have gone Carrie Underwood on him. You know what I mean? But realizing that is not, it's not serving me. It's not serving him. It's not serving the situation. It's not helping anyone get better. And of course, like we have these emotions, but just kind of being able to reel them in and be curious. You know what I mean? Yeah, ask the questions instead
Y'all
of being
see
so
why
reactive.
she's one of my mentors? I am very reactive emotionally. Yeah. I'm not reactive in decision making, but I have a flip switch when it comes to my emotions. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I feel like having Lily tempered that quite a bit for me because it's the kids are always watching. The kids are keep it together. Like my road rage has gotten so much better since she rides in the car with me.
Yeah.
However, since I started playing soccer again, I see those glimpses and I get so fired up. I get so mad. Like I'm ready to go fist to cuffs when I feel like one of my teammates is disrespected. And it's like, whoa, crazy.
Yeah.
Rein it in, because when I'm in a reactive emotional state, very rarely do I walk away feeling better.
When emotions are high, intelligence is low.
Yes.
So it's so funny that you brought up Lily because Ethan, my oldest, is 17 now, he taught me this lesson. I call him my knight in shining armor. He saved my life. Had I not got pregnant with him when I was 17 years old, delivered my 18, I would have gone down a completely different road. And we have a very different relationship because we borderline kind of like grew up together.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But he is ADHD, as you know, and you know a lot of the struggles that I've had with that. And there was one time in particular where I can remember he was probably about like 7. He was not listening. He was arguing with me at that time. Like I didn't realize that what he was arguing about here, it was not the problem. It was down here. What we were arguing about, what I was mad about, was very surface level. It was not.
Isn't that the case 99% of the time?
Yes.
What's the real problem here?
The issue lives down here.
Yes.
So, but I found myself getting so, when you clench your teeth and you're just, and it's a control thing, and like you're not listening to me, and and I'm your parent, and I know what needs to be done, blah, blah, blah. So I like made kind of a grab at him, he jerked away from me, and just emotions were high, and we got a little bit of this like tussle kind of, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I just in that moment was like, the more reactive I am, and, the more I kind of put on this like aggression, the more he reciprocates with it.
Absolutely.
So I'm just kind of, but when he would get into that state, once he started getting a little bit older and I realized this, kind of had this epiphany, and I started when he's, you know what I mean? And I just would sit on the floor and just wait. And just let him go at it and say whatever he needed to say. And, go on a rant. Most of the time, me sitting there just listening to the whole thing ended in tears and him in a heap in my lap.
Yeah.
And that was, that was one of the places where I learned that you have to meet people where they're at, but that's on their journey, not on their emotional level. So being
Be a container.
yes,
Yes.
turn yourself into a container and just be able to hold it, let people work through it, be curious, ask more questions, because at the end of it, that's going to help them. Then I'm helping them, which is helping me, which is helping me, which is helping them.
Right.
Which is the ultimate goal. And that's really, I think, one of the, a lot of people have religious trauma,
Yeah.
which myself involved. But, you know, definitely the older I get, the older my girls get, and my kids in general, I'm kind of realizing this, you know, I have some things I really need to just let go of. And at the end of the day, it really and truly is, we're supposed to be like Jesus. We are supposed to love people like Jesus. So what does that look like?
Yeah.
Would he have ever gotten into this kind of tussle and this aggressive kind of, or would he been like my child? You know what I mean?
I think too, it's so important to remember, and this was a huge breakthrough for me in my own journey. Control issues, people-pleasing tendencies, all of this. Certain ways that I was raised as well. If it's not a positive emotion, if it's not a helpful emotion, we don't have space for it. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to feel it. Like, we just got to be better. We just got to be better. Everything's fine. Everything's good. And that manifests into very type A, like, if I can control the situation, and if I can tell everybody what to do and where to be and how to feel, then everybody's going to be fine because I can control it. What that doesn't do, though, is allow for complete truth.
Right.
You have to have the negative emotions. And, you know, we're talking about leaving on this podcast. That's so important, too. Let people be mad. Let people be happy. Let people, whatever they need to feel about it, go ahead and feel it. But know that I'm still doing it. And that's okay. And one of my huge breakthroughs was realizing that you're physically, the really huge, big emotions, you're only capable of feeling it for about 90 seconds. Your body cannot sustain that feeling. The reason why it feels like it's drug out for so long is because we're not letting ourselves truly sit in it, truly feel it. We're explaining it away. We're rationalizing it. We're seeking validation. We're fighting. We're bringing up other things that have nothing to do with what the problem is at hand.
Right. Yes.
But just like you said, if we can just sit in it and feel it, then almost always, just like even ending in tears in your lap, you just need to feel it so that you can then move on.
Yes.
And you can leave that space. But if you don't let yourself feel it, you're never going to get that resolution.
Yeah.
It will show up in different, usually ugly ways.
Yes.
So,
and kind of like we have spoken about before, you get stuck in a place of rumination where you just keep going over it and over it and over it and over it. And, you know, negative emotions, positive emotions, all of these things, I look at them like the breadcrumbs, like I mentioned previously. Your emotions are breadcrumbs. And if you're not paying attention to them, it can become very dangerous because also, like we talked about before, you think it's this thing, but it's not. It's this thing.
absolutely.
And you're like, gosh, I'm depressed. Gosh, I'm not feeling as joyful as I usually would. Like, what's going on? But then you know, at the end of your day, instead of sitting down and sitting in it, it's a time that I like to call my download time. Like, I kind of just like go over the whole day, like what happened. You end up numbing out. You end up social media, you end up sitting on the couch watching TV, you end up, you know, all of these other things instead of just really sitting with yourself. And that level of self-awareness, again, we kind of keep going back to that, but it's so imperative for personal growth and development to look at the self and, you know, to kind of, you know, how do I process these things? What is it really? Is it my daily, you know, kind of schedule and the way that I do things? Is it my job? Is it, you know, something that's coming just from me? Is it a false narrative I'm making up in my head? Is it low self-confidence, no love? And then taking action from there and just trying things, because there's nothing wrong with, I mean, you just try until you figure it out.
Absolutely.
You try until you learn yourself, you know? So yeah, for sure. I think is super important.
Big shout out real quick, because we're hitting so many topics that we've read and listened to podcasts. If you're enjoying what you're listening to, I would love to take like all of the credit, but we have both done a ton of work.
A lot of work.
Yes. My two go to 100% Glennon Doyle.
Yes.
Untamed. She's got a journal that goes with it. She's got a
Truest, Most Beautiful
podcast.
Life. I hang on to that. Truest, Most Beautiful
Yes.
Life. Yes.
Yes. Another one, Brene Brown.
Sister.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
I think our generation, because most people I talk to who are around our age, they will all agree with the same thing. We function in 4 emotions: happy, sad, mad, anxious, whether it's excited anxious or nervous anxious. Like
Yes.
those are the 4 things. But if you think of how many different emotions there are, and if you're able to name your emotion, fun fact, I pay a lot of money and go to a lot of therapy just to name my emotions. I'm like emotionally like, like it's a struggle.
Yeah.
How are you feeling right now?
Well.
Give me a second. Let me get my chart out. I think I'm somewhere in between here and here.
Yes.
So seriously though, check them out. I think it's so powerful and important. And I think, we came in to talk about leaving. But I think really we should rename it about going to your truth, going to your calling,
Yes.
going and really learning who you are. Because when you know you, every decision becomes so much easier and you have peace with it. There isn't that rumination because you can sit and say, okay, this is right. And it's going to be hard and there's going to be bumps, but I know that at my core, this is where I need to go.
Yes. I love that. That was awesome.
Yay! Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh my gosh, I had a blast.
Yay!
Yeah.
All right.
I just have to say this. We just checked an item off of my bucket list.
Yay!
Yeah. You know how I am with my bucket list,
Yes.
and this is what doing a podcast is one of them. And
I'm so glad
loved
that you
it.
agreed.
I loved it so much. And we could go on for hours.
Oh,
and
I'm
hours
sure.
and hours
I was
and
like, I've
hours.
got to get to a
Yeah,
stopping
we have
point.
to wrap it up at some point.
Brandon's
Do we
going to
have
get real
to?
mad when he's editing.
Exactly.
Oh my God, how long did they talk?
And they didn't clap once.
All right. If you are looking for amazing hair, an even cooler vibe, and the most genuine people in the game, go check out the Lab Hair Studios located in Claremont, Florida, right across the street from downtown. Also, if you need to be a human being and just be and take a break from the doing, I want you guys to all check out the Salton Sea Wellness Spa. Also, shout out to Christine's sister, whole talented family.
Yes.
Because Carla is really
She's killing it. I mean,
in the game with the wellness spa.
I just messaged her yesterday and I was like, girl, I can't use a bad B.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you
basically,
can say
just
it.
like,
You
you know
can.
what I mean?
Yes.
I'm like, I see you and you are absolutely slaying. I mean, she just, talk about, igniting the fire within. And that's like kind of, what you mentioned earlier as far as like, believing in people and seeing the possibilities. Like that is a huge one. The amount of growth that she has gone through over the past handful of years. And that was also a going. That was also a leaving. I had to let go of her.
Right.
You know what I mean? She was my operations manager down at the salon for a long time. She was like, you know what I mean? Like my right-hand man. Like, we had so many great ideas together. We were able to solve all these, you know what I mean? And it was just like, we worked so well together. And, for her just taking off, like when the space became available, I'm like, yo, are we doing this? And she's like, grabs paintbrush, grabs tool belt. I'm ready. You know what I mean? And just like, so what she has done is incredible. She's so passionate about massage therapy and about wellness and about, people just, being our best selves, feeling our best, looking our best, like literally one building, feel your best, look your best. Let's do it.
Yes.
So yes, mad applause for Carla for taking the step, for following the breadcrumbs and
well, and I'm sure if she was here, she would say she wouldn't have had the courage to do it if you had not been a catalyst and a trailblazer for all of us. So my parting words to you are to keep doing it because you have no idea who you're inspiring.
Thank
and
you.
Your strength is inspiring. And I'm so glad I get to call you my friend.
Oh, likewise.
All right, guys, we will catch you next week. Thank you again. Make sure to tune in, share, and follow. And remember, we see you.